We take our hands for granted until they start making sense. It's a strange kind of invisible magic, isn't it? The way your fingers just know. They navigate the fork and the plate without you ever having to sign a mental permit. We build these deep, efficient grooves of habit, and we call it mastery because it sounds better. Mastery is usually just a polite word for the moment we stop having to actually think. But what happens when you decide to jump out of that groove on purpose, just to see? I decided to switch hands for every single meal this week, which felt like a good idea once. Every bite, every sip, every awkward struggle with a piece of toast became a project. The theory that it wakes up the sleeping hemisphere of the brain is spark in the grey. It sounds like a clever bit of brain hacking, a shortcut to becoming someone much sharper. I've read all the articles about neuroplasticity in the gym for your internal thoughts. It feels noble when you're just thinking about the concept on a quiet Sunday evening. You imagine yourself becoming this calm, zen-like master of your own biology and focus. But the first meal was a slow-motion disaster that left me feeling like a frustrated child. There is a profound, quiet humiliation in missing your own mouth with a heavy spoon. You watch the soup drip onto your clean shirt and realize that you are actually quite fragile. Our sophisticated adult brains are really just riding on a lot of old, dusty momentum. The coordination just wasn't there, and the air in the kitchen started to feel very heavy. My left hand felt like a clumsy tool made of unshaped wood and cold. Stubborn iron. It was a total stranger attached to my own wrist, refusing to follow the simplest orders. And then comes the hunger, that sharp, irritable edge that we like to call being hangry. We think our temper is a personality trait, but maybe it's just low blood sugar and ego. I found myself staring at a simple plate of rice with a level of pure, hot resentment. I wanted to eat right now, but my hand was busy being difficult and incredibly slow. It has a very specific kind of anger when your own body is the only thing in your way. The kind that comes when you realize your patience is actually a very thin, cheap layer. I noticed the silence of the room becoming much louder as the meal dragged on and on. A 10-minute refuel turned into a 40-minute struggle with a bowl of green salad. I began to wonder if I was stimulating my brain or just making myself miserable for a sport. Is there a real difference between growth and just being confused in the dark for an hour? I saw a friend eating a sandwich with both hands, moving with such effortless confidence. He wasn't thinking about his brain hemispheres or his emotional resilience or his habits. He was just enjoying the bread and the salt and the company of the warm afternoon. I was the one sitting there with a cramped wrist and a life that I was overanalyzing. Why do we feel this constant need to optimize every single human moment of our day? Maybe we're afraid of the quiet that comes when everything is finally working perfectly. I noticed I was chewing more slowly, mostly because I was too tired to lift the fork again. My digestion was better, I suppose, but my spirit felt a bit bruised and strangely raw. You start to notice the tiny details of the utensils in a way that feels heavy and strange. The light reflecting off the curve of a spoon shouldn't be this interesting to a person. It's hard to feed yourself when the tool you trust feels like a total stranger. I'm still not sure where the line is between self-improvement and simple self-torture. The line seems to move depending on how much sleep I've had or how the weather looks. I saw a man in a cafe struggling with a heavy door while holding 2 cups of coffee. I felt a sudden urge to help him without being asked, just for the sake of connection. Maybe the challenge was really about remembering what it feels like to be clumsy again. We spend so much time hiding our weaknesses that we forget how to see them in others. The hangry feeling didn't actually go away, but it did start to feel separate from me. Like a noisy neighbor, I had to learn how to live without shouting back at the wall. I realized I could be angry and still move the fork slowly through the air to my mouth. That's a small victory, I suppose, in the grand scheme of a very messy and loud day. But then, I caught myself using my right hand to grab a napkin by total reflex. The right hand is so eager to help, so ready to take over the world and fix the problem. It's the fixer in us that hates the rattle and the leak of a slow and certain hand. I wonder if we ever really change our nature, or if we just find new ways to pretend. By day 5, the novelty was gone, and the sheer boredom of the pace set in like a fog. I was no longer learning anything. I was just waiting for the meal to finally be over. Is the goal mastery? Or is it just staying in the frustration until you finally breathe? We chase these hacks because we want a shortcut to a wisdom that probably doesn't exist, I noticed. You're sitting there now, maybe thinking about your own hands for a second. I'm going back to my right hand tomorrow, and it feels like a buttery kind of freedom. I didn't become a master of my temper, but I did see the cracks in my polished armor. The brain is still there, pulsing in the dark, and the hands are still waiting for orders. The room is quiet now. The plate is empty, and I'm not sure if I'm any smarter today. It's enough to just be here, I suppose, even if my hangar is still just a second away. Thank you for listening. I'll see you in the next episode.